Welcome back everyone. This lecture marks the conclusion of this course and it is therefore useful to briefly understand or reflect on what has been covered so far and how today's discussion fits into the broader structure. Throughout the course, we have examined major contemporary challenges to global peace, including nuclear weapons, deterrence, emerging technologies, the institutional frameworks that is designed to manage conflict. We have also explored how global governance mechanisms and strategic doctrines attempt to address these issues, often under conditions of uncertainty and competing interest. In addition to these modern themes, earlier units also introduced the key elements of Indian ancient thought, including the concept of dharma, the strategic insights of Kautilya's Arthashastra, and the broader tradition of ethical and political reasoning rooted in Indian philosophy. These were not treated as historical curiosities, but as intellectual frameworks with continuing relevance. In this final lecture, the aim is to bring these standards together. Rather than treating ancient thoughts and contemporary strategy as separate domain or ideas, we'll explore how they can be integrated. The central question is whether India's ancient thought can contribute meaningfully to current debates on global peace and security, and whether such interpretation or integration offers a more balanced and sustained approach to managing the challenges we have studied throughout the course. Coming to the next, that why Indian ancient thought matters today. Indian ancient thought remains relevant because it engages with the questions that are not limited to any specific historical period. Issues such as the exercise of power, maintenance of order, and the relationship between morality and governance are central to both ancient and modern political life. Now, in contemporary international relations, strategic thinking often prioritizes efficiency, deterrence, and short-term outcomes. While these are important, they can sometimes neglect deeper ethical consideration. Indian traditions, particularly the concept of dharma, reintroduce the idea that political action must be grounded in moral responsibility and social order. Furthermore, Indian thought provides an important non-Western perspective. As the international system becomes increasingly multipolar, relying solely on Western theoretical frameworks may limit our understanding of global dynamics. India's intellectual traditions it offers obviously alternative ways of conceptualizing this authority, legitimacy, and stability. This makes them particularly valuable in global context where diverse political systems and cultural perspectives must coexist. Integrating these insights into contemporary strategy can therefore contribute to a more inclusive and balanced approach to global peace. Coming to the next, the dharma as the foundation of order. The concept of dharma is central to the Indian ancient thought and serves as a foundational principle for understanding order and governance. It encompasses duty, moral responsibility, and the maintenance of social and cosmic order. Unlike modern legal frameworks, which often focus on rights, dharma places equal emphasis on obligations and responsibilities. In political terms, dharma provides a normative framework for state behavior. It also suggests that the rulers and the institutions must act in ways that sustain order and promote the welfare of society. This does not eliminate conflict, but it sets boundaries on how power should be exercised. For contemporary strategies, this has important implication. It encourages policymakers to consider not only what is effective, but also what is just and sustainable. In the context of global peace, Dharma highlights the importance of responsibility, restraint, and the long term consequence of political decisions. Coming to the next, the Kautilya's Arthasastra, the realism and statecraft. It is often regarded as one of the most sophisticated works on statecraft in ancient India. It presents a detailed analysis of power, strategy, and governance, and is frequently compared to realist tradition in modern international relations. Kautilya emphasizes the importance of intelligence, diplomacy, and economic resources as key elements of state power. He also recognizes that coercion and force may be necessary under certain conditions, particularly when the survival of the state is at stake. However, this realism is not entirely detached from the broader considerations. The Arthasastra also reflects an understanding that stability and prosperity requires effective governance and internal order. For contemporary strategists, Kautilya's work highlights the importance of combining strategic calculation with the institutional strength. It suggests that the power must be managed carefully and that effectively, and carefully must be managed, and the policies also requires both foresight and adaptability. Coming to the next, mandala theory. One of the most well-known elements of the Kautilya's thought is the mandala theory, which we have discussed before. Just to summarize, it provides a framework for understanding relations between states. According to the model, states exist within a circle of relationships where immediate neighbors are likely to be adversaries, while more distant states may serve as allies. Now, this framework reflects a pragmatic understanding of international politics where agencies and alliances are not fixed but change according to shifting interest and circumstances. It closely resembles the modern concepts such as balance of power and strategic alignment. The mandala theory is particularly relevant in today's multipolar world, where states must navigate complex networks of cooperation and competition. It highlights the importance of flexibility, strategic partnerships, and situational awareness in maintaining stability. For global peace, this suggests that the stability is not achieved through strategic arrangements, but through continuous management of relationships and interest. Coming to the next, Raja Dharma is one of the duties of rulers, as it means literally, and is another key concept in the Indian ancient thought. It outlines the ethical and practical responsibilities of leadership, emphasizing that rulers must act in the interest of their people and maintain justice and order. This concept also highlights that governance is not merely a technical exercise, but a moral responsibility. Leaders are expected to balance authority with accountability and to ensure that their actions continue to the welfare of society. In contemporary terms, Rajdharma resonates with ideas of good governance, transparency, and legitimacy. It suggests that stability is not achieved solely through power, but through the trust and support of population. For global peace, this underscores the importance of responsible leadership at both national and international level. Coming to the next, the Indian thought on war and peace. The Indian ancient thought does not ignore the reality of conflict. Texts such as the Mahabharata and Arthasastra acknowledge that war may sometimes be necessary. However, they consistently emphasize that it is not the preferred option. Diplomacy, negotiation, and strategic restraint are often presented as more desirable approaches. Even when force is used, it is subject to certain conditions and limitations, reflecting an awareness of its consequences. This perspective aligns with contemporary efforts to prioritize conflict prevention and peaceful resolution. It also reinforces the idea that peace is not simply the absence of war, but the presence of order and ethical governance. For modern strategies, this suggests that the military power should be contemplated by diplomatic and institutional efforts to manage conflict. Coming to the next and the most important slide of integrating the ancient principle into the modern strategy. The integrating Indian's ancient thought into the contemporary strategies requires careful adaptation. These ideas should not be applied directly without considering current conditions. Instead, they can serve as the guiding principle that inform decision making. For example, the emphasis on dharma can shape ethical considerations in policy, while the strategic insights of Arthashastra can inform approaches to power and diplomacy. The main idea is to maintain the balance between realism and morality. Effective strategies must account for both practical constraint and ethical responsibilities. In a rapidly changing global environment, this integration can provide a more comprehensive and reflective approach to international relations. Coming to the next, that the application to the contemporary global challenges. The relevance of Indian ancient thought becomes clearer when applied to contemporary global challenges. Whether its nuclear disarmament, for example, reflects a tension between ethical concerns about human survival and strategic consideration of deterrence. Similarly, climate change requires a sense of collective responsibility and long-term thinking, both of which are emphasized in Indian traditions. Technological risk, including artificial intelligence, cyber threats, and also raises question about restraints and governance. In each of these cases, Indian thought provides principles that can be guide policy, such as the responsibility, balance, and foresight. While these principles do not offer direct solutions, they help frame the issue in a way that encourages more sustainable and cooperative approaches. Let's look at the limitations and the critical consideration. While Indian ancient thought offers valuable insight, it is important to recognize its limitations. These concepts were developed in a specific historical context and cannot be applied directly to modern situations without adaptation. There is also a risk of selective interpretation, where certain ideas are emphasized while others are ignored to support particular agendas. To avoid these issues, it is necessary to engage with these traditions critically and thoughtfully. This involves understanding their original context, recognizing their limitations, and adapting them appropriately. Such an approach ensures that the integration remains intellectually rigorous and practically relevant. Coming to the next, that is what can be a holistic approach. A key takeaway from this lecture is the importance of adopting a holistic approach to global peace by integrating Indian ancient thought with contemporary strategy. It becomes possible to combine ethical consideration with practical policy tools. Now, this approach encourages long-term thinking and a broader understanding of security, moving beyond immediate threats to consider underlying causes of conflict. It also helps bridge the traditional and modern knowledge systems, creating a more inclusive framework for addressing global challenges, such as integrating perspective is likely to be more effective in promoting sustainable and lasting peace. At the end of it, as we conclude this course and lecture, it is useful to reflect on the key themes that have been explored so far. We have examined a range of contemporary challenges from nuclear weapons to global governance and considered the strategies used to address them. The final lecture also highlights the value of Indian ancient thoughts and as a source of enduring insight. By integrating these ideas with modern strategies, it is possible to develop a more balanced and reflective approach to global peace. The future of global peace will depend not only on the technological and institutional solution, but also on the principles that guide the decision making. In this sense, the integration of past and present perspectives is not merely an academic exercise, but an essential component of effective and responsible policy making. The central takeaway for you should be the importance of combining ethical reflection with strategic analysis. This balance is essential if we are to approach the complex global issues in a structured and responsible way. Thank you for your active participation throughout the course. As we move forward, continue to question, analyze, and apply these perspectives to evolving global challenges. Thank you.